ticket writers. I think they were scheduled till 3 in the morning, right? And we came back and we said, hey, can they stay till 4 in the morning? And the director said absolutely. And so where she left already. Because she is out there, she left already. But they are definitely out there. TCOs and the ticket writers, they are out there until they're out there rocking with us. So I know it may have been historically an issue, but they had that power shift type shift that's out there working.
Okay. And also speaking of the expanding zone, when it gets slow, which case it does, our token operators and ticket writers go outside that zone. And we have been successful getting a lot of scofflaws that owe a lot of money to the district. So
if we can get the blocks that you're talking about for RPP, that's actually a whole other side that Preston could look at that potentially brings some of their folks that do nighttime RPP over to that area.
Yeah, I feel like okay. So if you can get the streets he's talking about, yes, sir.
So I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time. I am also a DC employee, and I have been in DC for 20-something years, so I was probably around you when you were doing what you were doing. Yeah. I work at the DC Office of Human Rights, and our contribution to what is happening right now is that we are going to work with anyone who is a business that employ individuals who receive tips as part of their wages to create a safer environment regarding sexual harassment prevention. Because sexual harassment begins in the bar or the club or whatever and spills out on the streets and creates more problems. So if you have a business that hires individuals who receive tips as wages, see me before you go because I have important information for you. Website, how to submit documentation, etc. And we want to create safe environments for everybody, inside and outside.
And no, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You made me think of something. One of the things we used to do it a couple of years ago, when NightLife kind of really took off in the district, we would come out, the police department, and this was before your office existed, we would actually come out and give you training on how to prevent, sexual assaults inside the club, how to not overserve, what to look for, talking to security, to make sure that you all are doing things in order so we don't have guns and weapons and stuff getting inside of the club. We can still do that. That training still exists for us. So we can still come out and have those conversations or training sessions with you and your staff, right? It really is just something to keep people thinking, right? In the moment when they're working, when you have that frame of reference, you move a little bit differently. You pay attention a little bit differently. So if that's something you guys want to take us up on, let that be one of your feedbacks, and we'll surely come out and help in that area.
And I could say, and I'm going back longer than 20 years, but I can say that somebody had received that training. Believe it or not, I was a bouncer at Lulu's when it used to be Lulu's. That actually works. I know y'all won't believe that, but at one point in time, very long time ago.
Is there a question?
Yeah, we're doing questions, but I see the gentleman back there had a question.
Okay, I'm one of the owners on 9th Street, and when I walk around on T Street, going to 8th Street, 9th Street, a lot of cars break down with a big window every day, even though there are 10 to 20 police officers on the 9th Street, but this thing is still happening every day. So how we can...
I'm gonna let Jimmy tell you about his plan, because I said, Jimmy, we're having some theft from autos going on.
So theft from autos is a very multifaceted problem, right? It's a prevention problem because we still have a ton of folks who come into this city, both residents and visitors, that leave purses, laptops, open change doors, you name it, laying out guns, laying in their in their center console and so forth. Right? We have a lot of stuff that entices people to break windows and steal. Right? Somebody who breaks your window, or a series of windows that steal stuff out of your car, is a different type of person, right? I can understand a lot of crime to an extent. Stealing other people's stuff to me is just up here not tolerable, right? It's annoying, it's bad for everybody. Most of our break-ins are crimes of opportunity, meaning we could have a police officer circling a block, and as soon as that officer cuts the corner, they can break 10 windows, get that stuff out of that car, and get out of the block before we circle back around and come back through that block 5 minutes later. And we have some instances where, whether it be crime cameras or ring cameras, actually you see the police officer leave the block and the crime occurs, right? And that could happen with any crime, but especially with deaf and autos. It used to be that our deaf and autos were our folks that we thought were just, folks down on their times, breaking into cars
We can come to that, we'll come to that.
breaking into cars to steal stuff to kind of facilitate their license. That's not true anymore. We have professional car breaking people that are riding around, juveniles, many of them, hopping out of a car, smashing 5 windows, while the next person reaches in the car and grabs what they want, and they're back in their suspect car and out the block, literally in minutes, if not less. So, there's a couple things we need to address. One, the prevention side of it. We're working right now with our public information officer to try to come up with ideas how to force it down people's throats to stop leaving stuff in plain view that entices people to go in the car in the first place, right? That's one approach, is prevention. The second is the enforcement piece of it, right? We study crime statistics and crime analysis every single day across all 3 shifts to determine where we're gonna deploy our limited resources. And I say limited, that shouldn't be a surprise to you folks. We all know that today we have less officers than we had last year, and a whole lot less than we had 5 years ago, right? So we have to be able to, not as an excuse, but we have to be able to do more with less and spread our resources out, which is why this task force is so important, that it allows us to do that with other government help, right? But the deaf and autos, we are doing things. I won't necessarily describe tactics because, let's be honest, I don't know who all I'm speaking to, right? But we are doing things proactively to catch people committing these types of crimes, whether it be observation posts where we're watching certain blocks that we know have a high recidivist rate of being hit, whether it's following the right people that we know have been arrested multiple times for that type of crime, to kind of watch them to see what their actions are and if it's leading to these areas. We're working with court supervision services, DYRS, to monitor people who've been arrested for those crimes to make sure they don't re-enter areas where they've committed those crimes before. So there are things being done on the proactive side. I would say, unfortunately, this is one of those crimes that one night we could have 30 of them, we could go a week without having one of them, right? So it's a lot of variables. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was.
I want someone to explain to me, what is the definition of historical area, and what is, if I do use street as historical, social?
You said, what is it?
Yeah, social, that's one. Second, is anything we can learn from the policy the people experiment in Georgetown?
You said in Georgia?
Georgetown.
Oh, in Georgetown, yes.
The third, we all have an answer to everything, seems like. That means 6 months from now, life is gonna be rosy, right?
No, I don't know if
No,
that.
no. And last comment, you can be honest for a moment. If getting all the city council people to walk in Friday and Saturday in U Street, perhaps to loosen up the budget in the work you do. The gentleman says he's short 5 officers, right?
Oh,
Politician 2, Friday and Saturday.
so I will say this, right? You say you have answers, right? I've been doing this thing, I told you it'll be 24 years. But 24 years, right? 5 years as a district commander, and if I couldn't come up here and have a conversation with you and kind of throw out ideas, let you know what we're doing and want to hear back from you, then I would probably have wasted my 24 years in law enforcement, right? So I can come and say, hey, my expertise is what I think, this is what we do, but I need to hear from you all as well on what you need us to do and what it is that you're saying. Then you said Georgetown, can we do? I was nervous. No, the Georgetown, so in Georgetown, think about it. At one point, Georgetown was the only place really to go in Washington, D.C. That has changed, right? You can go in any quadrant of the city and find 4 or 5 different areas, or at least 4 or 5.
Policy. How they manage
When Georgetown back,
right now.
Right now, Georgetown isn't as heavy of a lift right now as the other areas are. Notice we didn't say that we're deploying to Georgetown. Because what used to be, you know, the area that everybody flocked to, you can flock to so many different, you go in your neighborhood, not have to get on the train, you don't have to drive up there. You can walk out your door and experience what, you know, is offered in Georgetown at this point. I mean, I know I do in my neighborhood. I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm able to walk out and kind of enjoy the amenities, you know, that my neighborhood has to offer. But when you talk about Georgetown, I think it just looks different, and I think at some point in Georgetown, this is what you saw when Georgetown was at its heyday.
The last point, we have a policy to move cars, we have a policy to move the motorcycles. What is our policy to pushing the people to go forward, not just park right in front of my store?
Yes, that's what we talked about.
They call it chilling. What you do?
They chilling?
I'm chilling.
They chilling, that's what we just talked about. Oh,
Yeah.
Remember we just talked about it, what we
And
were
I don't
seeing.
know the policy in the.
So we got two new terms today.
I know.
It's hopping and we're chilling.
So, but in that, the director of DPW talked about what the TCOs are doing, what the cranes are doing, you know, the tow cranes. So the TCOs are moving the traffic along. Then we have people out there ticketing for those cars that are sitting there and refusing. Then we're gonna tow them.
How about people? I'm talking about people
Oh.
parking.
Right.
Parking, actually, I call it chilling.
Right.
How can I get these people to keep moving?
Well, that's how we are, and then with the
You're in
officers.
charge of moving the people that are chilling too. right?
Remember when I told you when I was walking down the street, I was like, okay, y'all, come on. But keep in mind, when I say it, right? But public space is public space, right? We have to keep free, you know, passage, right? Which is really rough on U Street with the crowds that you have, right? But people being on public space is not against the law, which is why you have the increased government presence down there so that we can encourage people to keep it moving.
We don't have no policy for that.
I just told you, the one, no, there's no policy against chilling. But what happens is, no policy against chilling. But what happens is, if they're doing other, I'm gonna come to you next, sir. If they're engaging in other behavior, whether they're blocking traffic, they're blocking the free, you know, movement of people.
No smoking public.
That's who-
Marijuana in the public.
We do that, right. So we should be doing 61 days or arrest. We talked about it. Yep, and then when you talk about, enforcing it, there has to be an appetite for prosecution. That's another
That's a
discussion.
whole nother discussion.
That's another discussion.
I would love to say, sir, in 6 months, that we got no crime on your street. That would be a lie if I told you that. But that's our goal, to get as close to that as we can.
And have people safely enjoying it.
And have people safely enjoying their time in our areas that we have establishments for them.
And they're doing a wonderful job in the last 2 weeks. Amazing. And the curiosity is how long they're gonna stay.
How long
with
can
it.
we sustain it?
Yes.
We-
That's the reason you think I'm being funny.
No, I don't think you're
I think
being
you're being funny. You all have a point that politicians, they don't get it. All of you.
So,
That's the reason they said, get them to come for a tour Friday and Saturday, and they hear you well.
sir, I would gladly stand with you in the back here, and I'll give you the number to every council member that I have. I mean, look, we got one council member's office that's here. They were.
The French people have the ability to listen. They all received a letter from me. All of them. They have a copy, and I mail it every month, same day.
Same letter every month.
Every month.
We need more people doing that.
I know. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is
Have a good
Keaton.
life in 6 months.
Thank you. We'll see you in 6 months.
My name is Keaton. I am the owner of Kiki, which is the previous Velvet Lounge in Dodge City at 915 U Street. Justin Parker is the owner of the Dirty Goose. Just with my background a little bit, I've been on U Street for 8 years in this industry, 17 years in total, so I've seen a lot of different things. 6 months ago, I opened up my own bar, Kiki, going very well. Small instance that we had, you discussed the cooler and selling drinks outside of on the street. This past Sunday, I called 311, said for somebody selling stuff out of the cooler. An officer came 25 minutes later, and all he did was put him 20 feet down. So it was he was put out the alleyway, right across from like that half street down the alleyway there. So we just moved down, so that didn't do anything. Then on top of that, there's been like an illegal business running out of U Street in one of the buildings that has been handled by the landlord. But Abra never walked in there, DCRA never walked in there.
What block was it?
915. I know exactly where you're talking about.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Everything that kind of
Is it on the
related
north or the
to
south side of the street?
North.
I just say because there was.
It's been handled.
I know.
It's been handled, but the point I'm trying to make is that was going on for 6 months with no licenses, no health inspections, no nothing. So if the person, whoever had something from that business, came into my business, passed out, I had to call 911. Big issue, blah, blah, blah. My business is red flagged. The occupancy is, somebody said the hangout crowds are the issues, the ones standing around our businesses, not the actual occupancy of our buildings. But I feel that there's always pressure on our businesses' occupancies that really, like, we're controlling our environment. Like, I think that our two businesses control our environment very well. We pay very well for security. So I don't understand why it's always occupancy, 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 when it was just admitted that it's not our occupancies, that it's the hangout people around the streets.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Touch on that real quick. Just since we started this task force, we've had at least a half a dozen instances where the fire marshal had to have people remove from the business because they were around. Right? So some of you are absolutely right, are following the rules 100% all the time, right? But we also can't just go to one business and remind that one business every single day. And there are some businesses, trust me, they have a little asterisk next to their name that we know cause some of the issues on U Street and 9th Street that we pay a little more attention to, right? However, what we want to do is make sure that it's a collective understanding across the entire gamut. I don't think your place has been shut down. No, absolutely, it probably never will be, right? You guys handle your business.
Okay, so I kind of want to speak to this a little bit, just coming from a business. So we've been open 6 years at the Dirty Goose. We did, the DC Mayor of NightLife tried to do this meeting in 2020. It was an unorganized video conference call where, like, MPD, kudos to them, showed up and took a lot of crap from all of us. But none of the other agencies showed up. They were all invited. The councilwoman's office did not show up. So I think what the irritation, and I think we're getting people that aren't seeing this, like, 4-week change is because we talked about it in 2020.
Sure.
Yeah.
We were open fully in 2021. Everyone's saying DC's open this year. It was open last year, and we went through all this. So now I think it's going to take a little bit longer than that 3 weeks. I will say, though, like, not being able to drive down and only kind of making 9 between T and U a walkable space made a huge difference. Made a gigantic difference. I think where this is kind of coming from is that we have had 2 years where we had increased regulations. I didn't see Abra speak. Are they here?
Yeah, they're here. Are they still there?
Are they here? I don't think they're here.
They're advertised.
So for one, because the conversation was kind of started out like between establishments and people on the street. Establishments, bars, clubs, restaurants, anything with a liquor license, Abra is their main enforcer, so it's kind of interesting that they're not here. 2, we had 2 years of increased regulations that were brand new, and a lot of those, this is just a little more nitty gritty, were tier 1 violations. You get 4 of those in 4 years, it could be up to a $30,000 fine, and you can have your license suspended for 30 days. So some of us received those tier 1 violations because it was a brand new regulation that we went through a case where Abra had to admit that they didn't really know what the rule meant, so they enforced it incorrectly. So we won that case. But I think the worry here is we can be 5 people over capacity, and if Abra dings us for that, it's another tier 1 violation. So in this enhanced enforcement, we can really get hit hard when we feel like we're trying our best, but if I have a 200 person capacity, 5 people over, that's such a small percentage that is probably within human error of, like, I looked down, I didn't count, that type of thing. So I think that's where for us, our worry, we're here for the community. We came here in 2020, came here in 2021. We're not really trying to, like, crowd it over, be loud. We did have a worry that my line of people to get in the building, because we were following capacity, were getting mugged in the unlit alley that's between 9th and Vermont on the north side. So we were like, okay, we'll just let more people in, because I don't really feel comfortable having a line on the street. So I think that for establishments is kind of where we're coming from, where we've seen this increased enhancement, and I'm glad to see all the agencies here, but a lot of times that increased enforcement, when this all starts to kind of settle, starts to really fall on the businesses who are really trying to do their best. There will be human error, and so I think just wanted to say that piece, because I think that does get kind of lost.
And I think that in that space, and I was trying to say it from the beginning, right? This process is going to identify the people that are operating out just for no regard, right? Whether that's the promoters, whatever that looks like. And that's really who we're trying to shine the light on. You know, the intent is not to come out here and penalize businesses that are trying to do the right thing. And I think that's a conversation, right? When we talk about in the moment, that's a conversation. When we talk about, and so I have them report back, what was the violation and where did you issue them, right? So I'm able to see that, so we can see how we're focused and are we focusing in the right place, because we don't want it to seem to you all as if we're just out here screwing with you, that the government is just coming out to screw with you. That's not the goal here. And if you find yourself in that circumstance, we need to have a conversation, and then we need to have a conversation, because that's not our intent. So when you say the 5 giver plus of, I would hope that we not out there, and I'll let the fire marshal touch that.
So if I go to your club, next time I've been to most of your clubs, if you're 1 or 2, 5 over, I'm fine with that. You never heard me squawking about that. But now, if I go through and something I can't walk through, I gotta really part the seas like Moses, then I have a problem.
So I will say, we've had the fire marshal come in before, and that with businesses is a conversation.
Right.
Of being like, I am worried about egress here, this is too
Yep.
crowded,
Right.
we just need,
The
our
safety,
priority is getting
yes.
people
Right.
out,
Right.
do it again and you're fine.
Yep.
Right.
It is, and this isn't necessarily Abra's fault, but the way that their regulations are worded, that isn't always a conversation. That it can be, that's why I'm kind of confused, because you're saying you're doing capacity, but Abra also does capacity.
And I like for them to travel together. I like for me
Yeah,
or
so-
Abra and the fire marshal to travel.
Before we leave, let me make sure I get contact information from the two of you. We'll get together with President Solly and the director.
And that's what I was gonna say, my
Right.
whole team is here, so Jennifer, can you raise your hand? She's our community outreach specialist. Salima, can you raise your hand? That's our associate director. So all 3, again, this is what we do, right? We're not enforcers. We're here to engage with our DC government sister agencies, with the operators, with the residents, right? So we connect the dots. So please ensure that you have either one of our 3 business cards. Our email address is nightlife@dc.gov. We all come from the nightlife industry, right? So we're used to 24 hours being on call, text messaging, calling, but again, just please reiterating that for me, to you, that we're here to hear. Again, as we keep saying, things change, right? Different things happen different times, but again, that real-time feedback that we provide, Assistant Chief Kane and all of our sister government agencies that are part of the Nightlife Task Force, that's where our biggest strength is, right? We hear from you guys, and then we, again, are the connectors, and we bring it to the table on Thursday. And I will say that the government agencies have been amazing. Literally, I need this, and then we.
But this is what we're here for, right? We're here to hear what you're saying right here.
Yeah.
That is an issue, right?
I also wanted to.
As I mentioned before, I was part of this nightlife scene probably before you guys were born. But joking aside, that's an issue, right? And if we're over enforcing on something like that, that's something we need to hear too. We need to have the conversation with the inspectors that are coming out there from the app. And I think we start with that with the director. I think the nightlife office can connect you guys with that. I'll make sure Fred knows that that's coming too, because and you guys can have that conversation.
I also wanted to address the businesses. You brought up a point and said there was an unlicensed business there. It was for 6 months. I'm not sure if you put a complaint in the DCRA. I'm new into this position, but you can definitely have my contact information.
Landlord handled the situation.
So what did they, I wanna make sure we're talking about this thing, cause I noticed it when I was walking and got on the phone with Adam. Yeah. And I say that to say though, as soon as I called Abra on the phone, cause we were already working, they were like, yep, and he ran me down everything that they were doing. You know what I'm saying, to try to get them out.
I've seen, so I've been on, I'm pretty much there every weekend.
Yeah.
And so I've seen Abra walk into businesses and just walk past other businesses And so it's just give or take whatever we see on the street.
Yeah.
With this task force, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, there was a individual sitting out in front of my bar at this little like planter thing that he was sitting on, and I saw a badge, the one that I assumed was an Abra badge.
Yeah.
So I alerted the security. I'm like, hey, Abra's here. We're all fine. Nobody's gonna like. We know we're okay. I'm just letting you, all the management teams know that Abra is on our block. So he walked in, said that he was a part of the task, or we asked him what he was. He said he was a part of the task force. So we were like, okay. Then my manager asked him like, well, are you Abra? That person didn't know what Abra was.
I heard that call.
I think that's my
I heard that. Yeah. I heard the call. The police call for service come out. They were like, so I was like, oh, we gotta do a better job.
It's one of my guys. He's a new guy. He just got hired, and it was the first time he was doing overtime. He didn't get to go to the meeting at 9 o'clock, so he really didn't have
There has
a
to be
good
a way.
idea.
I mean, I know that there's no way that this should have been missed. That there has to be a way to identify that. So like, we need to know something. They need to wear a vest. They don't need to wear a DCRA shirt. No offense, I saw DCRA shirts at Goodwill.
I mean, I had one on the other day. I had one.
So we gotta like find, there's gotta be a way, because we let this person in who we really don't know what our consequences is or our actions could be. It could be somebody who's like, yeah, I'm DCRA and have a gun in the back pocket. And we let them into the building greenly because they're gonna walk through our security. Another thing since I was not here, but the rest of them are, during the pandemic.
Excuse me, let me just interrupt you for that. I'm investigating Butler from Abra. Okay, and I just sit here and listen to all the conversation that you guys had. We have 3 different shifts here, a lot of new investigators. I'm the senior investigator. I've been doing it for 23 years. I've been up and down the street since day one, just like the chief over here. But we have different investigators who are still learning the ins and outs of what to do. And for identification, we do have badges. And if you are in question of that, ask for a business card. Ask for a business card.
Abra is good.
I think the thing with this task force is that these people who are out representing the different areas, they need to be identified differently. Because anybody could walk in and say they're DCRA with a t-shirt on, and we have no idea but to bow down to them a little bit.
We have had that in the past with some guys that go into different clubs or restaurants and have different badges. We changed our badge these 3 times.
Yeah, but he's saying it happened. I heard the radio run when they called us to let us know. So your point, he's
I mean, but we have badges and identification as well. I mean, nobody's gonna be like the DCRA and not have DC government.
While we're on that topic,
But I will say, if it's an EPW shirt, feel free to buy them a beer.
People on their business.
Their former director, I can say that. No, one thing I do want to just get to everybody here is, to hit the task force, if you have a question or something's going on, and you need to get something to the task force, the best way to do that is through the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture email address. You get that, they're on there, they're checking it, so you get that again.
So if everybody wants to write this down, it's nightlife@dc.gov. And again, so what you know from behind the scenes is we have meetings, we're talking to constituents, and then we have everything pre-prepped, ready to go to present for our meetings on Thursdays at 1. So again, just please keep that in mind. We go live with the Nightlife Security Task Force every Thursday at 1 p.m. So if you could just please keep that in mind when you're submitting feedback. And again, we're here to engage and connect the dots for operators and businesses with the government agencies.
So, yes, ma'am.
I wanted to know how, I work with veterans and particularly Vietnam veterans, and Mr. Goodwin owns the restaurant at V in Georgia. So Georgia's been problematic over the time, and we have a lot of traffic that comes from the Georgia 7th Street over to 9th Street. I live across from 930 Club, where they just did all of that floor. It's very well lit up, but there's a lot of transient traffic that there was some problems at that gas station a lot, but it's cut down a lot since they put all that new stuff.
And which they put that in there, that came out of the task force.
Yes. Yes, so how are we going to hold Howard responsible for the properties that are vacant there? And how can we, a lot of the people that have business that we have on U Street, some of them close like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, there's a lot of grants. There was that one about the camera where you could get the cameras up in your business. But all this stuff is not put out where people can know about it. You know, is there a way we can involve the businesses in some education and some benefits that because they don't know, they're doing their business. Some of these people work from 7 all the way, closed all by themselves. And if we can get Howard and that area, because the Howard University is there, and I think that traffic from the college kids there down to U Street is part of it too.
There. Yep. So we received that. Yep. We got you. We'll do some outreach. Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Hi.
I'm Mr. Simmons. I've been working at U Street corridor for about 13 years as security. So I see some of the stuff you'll see. I see some stuff you don't see. I understand the cultures. I work with DYRS. I work with Department of Health as well. So I'm very educated on the behavior and how the lady said about going down to R Street. Usually some stuff like that is happening because they're following the individual they're trying to get at, and it goes down there. They don't want to do it on U Street because it's too crowded. As far as the fire, she said, what I brought was my business partner. He told me this device. The counter, it could be more accurate. It clicks, it counts. It unites us all. Like if someone come on my club and he just robbed somebody or snatched somebody's purse, the other club would know. We would communicate and work amongst each other and know that you can't come here. I scanned your ID. It says that you stole a purse. It shows you drunk. It shows that you're. So I have my representative. It does a lot more. So I'm gonna give about 2 minutes.
I don't need to make a sales pitch here, but I do have a really big ask from all of you. Is we do work with quite a few nightclubs, bars throughout DC, especially on U Street, and a lot of what I've been hearing is you mentioned that there are people that shouldn't be anywhere near U Street, allowing us to see that information so that if they try to get into one of these businesses are alerted before they cause a problem inside. I think most of these businesses don't want any problems inside, and the problem is they don't know this information until much later, whether it's a parole officer or someone else that finds out later. Right.
So let me ask you this question. You're talking about, so as I'm listening to what you're saying, what you're talking about is having a mechanism for you all to communicate amongst yourselves. You're not asking us to relay that information.
Well, there's already a mechanism where a lot of the businesses can do that.
We're hoovering up a lot of information and not sharing those individuals back with us.
You said we're doing what?
You guys hoover up a lot of information about people that cause problems, and it's not coming back out to us.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Some of those hangabouts that y'all talk about that frequent the same areas.
We'll rely on Alex, and he has one of those devices that they're talking about where they're scanning IDs. Through Alex, we share a lot of information back and forth with those 3 bars over there, right on the corner of U and 9th Street. There's a lot of information gathering from your end, but not being dispersed out as to who those problematic individuals are, so we can stop them at the door and alert if necessary.
So I think that's fair, and I think they do this in the club owners. I think in 2D I heard about kind of sharing that information in their respective area. So the thing that I'm concerned about from the law enforcement aspect of it, right? We can't go out and say, don't let this person in your club, don't let this person in your club, right? Because then we'll have some consequences to that too. But what you can and what we're sharing with our partners are those bolos that we have. Say somebody did commit that shooting, right? Where she's talking about, right? There'll be a wanted, I don't say wanted poster, but it's a wanted poster. But you can get that off of our website as well, right? And so part of the task force is making sure, in the teams we created a channel so that we can upload those bolos and that criminal information for our partners.
Not just that, but the actual information about who's on probation, who's not, should be a streamlined document that's one massive file.
That runs into a little bit of issues with information sharing on that, but let's do this. I got the card.
Talk about it.
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's probably something here we can do. Probably it's not as much as we all would want to do.
Yeah.
But there's probably something there. Because it sounds like there's something there. If you all are using that, there's definitely any bolos we got out, stuff like that. We'll feed that to y'all because you're gonna hit, we're gonna respond.
What I think they should sign up for your listserv too, Jimmy. Because on that we have put who has been arrested over the last 24 hours every morning. So it's information there for you.
One thing you gotta remember to touch on that is, as private businesses, we have the right to refuse service to the right? We have to protect civil liberty as well. When we look at the holistic end of it. If we got somebody that's from another neighborhood coming down there, just pain in the butt, out drinking, hollering, that's somebody you can bar to not come into your business. But that's not something necessarily that we can say, hey, don't let this person into your restaurant, because they've not committed a crime, right? It would be improper for us to do that, right?
There's a lot there that's a third rail for us, but I think that it sounds like there's really something there though. So if we could I want to take this offline because it's a good conversation. Obviously not one there's other, I just want to make sure we get other questions and run out of time. Ma'am, we'll come back to you, sir.
Yeah, what are the hours of this task force? And I'm curious, like, is all 9 agencies or how many agencies involved going around together, all showing up at your door at once? Or is it like 3 agencies are out? How does that work?
So
what are the hours and how does it work?
I'm gonna say it real quick. So the hours, we huddle here at 9 o'clock. By 9:30, 9:45, we're out on the street, right? And we have U Street that we focus on. We have 8th Street Northeast, and we have the Connecticut Avenue corridor. So we figure out the resources that we have that night, and we kind of divvy them up. But we're talking on Thursday, so we already know what to expect and kind of how we're going to divvy it up during when we go out to deploy, right? And you said how many? What was the other?
So what are the hours?
9 to 4.
9 to 4?
Yep, 9 to 4.
Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, Friday and Saturday, Sunday when the holidays on a Monday.
Okay, and so holiday Sundays, and how does it work? I mean, does all?
Oh, how do you divvy up?
I'm just like, do all the agencies show up at once?
Yep, we all show up. We huddle here in the Reed Center, right? And we talked about this a little bit.
No, I mean when you're going into a business.
I'm getting ready to tell you that.
Okay.
So what we have, right? You have the inside of the businesses, which is pretty much ABRA, the fire marshals, and DCRA. And then you have what's happening on the public space. So we have 2 focuses. So inside of the business going to be DCRA, ABRA, and the fire marshal. On public space, you're going to have MPD. DCR has some of the vending that they have to go out and handle. We talked about that. You're going to have DPW with the cranes, the ticket writers, the traffic control officers, DDOT, DYRS, CSOSA. We talked about those agencies. We're really out there on public space. So it's like a twofold effort that we have going on at the same time. So that's kind of how we divvy it up. And normally, sometimes, I don't know if y'all consistently are moving as a team. I prefer y'all do.
Yeah, so sometimes what it is that when I go out there and stuff, I don't want no business feel like we picking on you. So if I come in there with ABRA and DCR and stuff, and ABRA pulling you one way, I'm pulling you one way, and DCR ain't pulling you one way, so it's chaos. So most of the time I let ABRA go do your thing. When they done and stuff, I go do my thing, and then when I'm done, DCR do their thing. That way you're not you're overwhelmed or feeling like, oh, here they come again, the mob squad. I don't like bullies at all. And I don't want you to feel like y'all being bullied at all. So I'm not here for that. Like I said, I've been on night shift for almost 6 years now. I'm not here to bully nobody. I'm here, like I said, make sure you're safe, make sure that the employees and the patrons come in and go home safely.
So we talk about that, right?
Yeah.
In the task force, we talk about it. So he feels, no, I don't want to go with both of them. And then there was another one where I like going with us together and we can get it done in one time and not bother them so many times. What would y'all prefer? To see them all at one time and be done with them, or them coming in staggered throughout the night? One at a time? Yes, sir.
All right. I just want to give y'all some feedback from a business owner.
Sure.
So first off, thank you guys. Y'all do a thankless service. I know y'all don't get the thanks for it. Do jobs that we don't want to do. So I appreciate you guys. I'm going to be very clear. There's nothing us business owners want to do more than not be in compliance. The last thing I want is you showing up and telling me I got to shut down. That's not what we want to do. We're working hard, like you heard this gentleman. I've listened to these guys. We all talk, and everyone's saying the same thing. We are trying, just like Abra and some of the other guys, without anybody getting defensive. Some everybody's like, hey, we got new guys. We're trying. I'm from Houston. I've been working in the city. I know how they operate down here. Moving to DC, big change. We're trying. We're brand new. So we want to be in compliance. We want to do everything we're supposed to. Sometimes when you guys come in, there is a lot of attitude from the departments, and we're just, hey. And I know that sometimes you got to make sense with our security at the front door, whatnot. It can be a little bit all over the place. the real issues right now from us, we hear your eyes and ears on the ground. When you pass by, you're gone. I've got experience, Brother Econ. You know, I've worked in other countries. We've dealt with the locals that didn't speak our language. What we did was we got in good with the locals, the business owners. We're on your side. Come see us in the daytime. We'll show you all our paperwork and then the issues that you have. That way you can allocate those resources differently at night. All these tow trucks, let's lessen them up. Let's get more foot patrols. The ski masks. These guys that are wearing ski masks that are allowed to walk around here, I have seen them shoot, stab people. I've had detectives at my bar looking for the murders. I watched it happen on 15th and on 14th and U. I watched the guy at McDonald's. I saw the thing in Mexico on 14th. I see all that. My servers, my bartenders get their cars broken in. Josh, my business partner, he didn't leave anything in his car. Window punched out. These groups, the hang-alongs down on the sidewalks, when we walk by, walk with me and my staff at night after we walk our servers to their cars. You're gonna see a different side. Just like this gentleman said, we see everything. Come see us in a day. Come hang out. I'll bring you to lunch. Come hear it from us. And at night, when we're busy, if we're doing something wrong, let us know. We're gonna readjust, we'll adapt and overcome, and we will make it work. But we're not trying to be out of compliance. I know you got the asterisks on the clubs, but that's not us. We're not the enemy to the residents. We're trying to clean up the alleys. I can't even dump my trash without my kids getting mugged. And we don't report it because it's not gonna, who's gonna find the guy that punched the window out? Who's gonna find the guy that mugged when they're wearing a ski mask? You know, these guys walk around freely all day with a ski mask. But that's all, guys. I'm at Elements and Alchemist. I would love for you guys to come by. Come see me during the day. If you have a bad interaction with any of my security, let me know. I'll let one of the girls go that had a bad interaction with somebody. But we will work with you guys. All right, thanks, guys.
What block are you in, did you say?
Elements and Alchemist.
Okay.
We're right here.
Right here, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right across the street. I would say we had the running with the security the other day. I don't know.
Was that the one that was me?
Yeah, that was it. But I just wanna, one thing that he did say that I do wanna throw out there is this ski masks. You had hundreds of people walking the streets with ski masks. Yep. Right now, I'm telling my bartenders to Uber to 2 blocks to their cars at 4:30 in the morning because you guys aren't out there anymore at 4:30 in the morning. I go to my block. I'm parked on my block in front of my place. If I didn't have a camera overlooking it, I wouldn't have seen anything. I had my car punched out 2 times this year so far. January 16th and what was it? 2 Tuesdays ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So now it's at the point where it's cheaper for me to call my boy and get my window fixed and tinted than it is to contact you and go through my insurance.
Yeah.
So, and believe me, I don't leave anything in my car. I learned my lesson 10 years ago when I started working on Houston.
The one thing I'm gonna say, call us. If somebody's getting robbed, we need to know that, right? And if it's, you know, off, whatever that is in any circumstance, we need to know that. Whether that's nightlife, whether that's during the day, call us. I know it's a hassle to call 911, give all that information, then have us respond out. But that's how we know what's going on and how we have to deploy and how we have to move and pivot. So please don't get so discouraged that you don't call us.
What is the policy right now on ski masks? Are we actively going to change this?
So I was getting ready to comment on that. And I just saw it on social media, right, where they're talking about, you know, like it's cool to walk around with your face in a ski mask in the middle of summer. To me, that's a flag. If I'm a patrol officer, I'm gonna say, hey, how you doing? What you doing? I want you to know I see you, you know, and who you are, what you got on, and all that. Make your presence known. But it's not against the law for them to wear it. So technically, we can go out and we can contact them, right? We can try to initiate that conversation. But absent some other reasonable suspicion, we can't enforce them wearing a ski mask. So our officers have to be creative in that space. I think the only time we really is the one with Halloween, kind of wearing the hood, you know, wearing the mask and hood. That's like a Halloween talk somewhere around. Or if they're protesting or tearing stuff up. But if they're just walking down the street with it, we don't have anything to enforce in that space. Go ahead.
Touch on the ski mask part. What we do, I'm on 13th and U Street. What we do is, we come into the establishment, I say smile for the camera, put your mask down, we gotta capture who you are. That somebody's proactive at you know, being proactive with them, causes them to take it down the block somewhere else. Even the scanner ID is like, oh, you're not scanning my ID. I'm paranoid.
Right.
I might find who I
You
am.
know what, though?
So
Even
I'm
when-
going down there, and then sooner or
Even when the
later.
deputy mayor just said that conversation is worth following up on, and that's why, to your point, we need to get you all on our YouTube page as well, because you probably got the picture of the joker that went and robbed somebody down the street, right, with all their
And we
information
gotta
outside of the
communicate.
ski
We gotta
mask.
be the
So we
communication,
gotta
yeah.
make sure that we're having that communication.
Yeah. So having the same guy, I see him running from the police. I'm like, I didn't let him in, but now it's a deterrent also for your business to have this device, and you could, with the communication with everybody else, it keeps everybody.
When you saw him run, did we catch him?
No, you didn't.
Did you come and give us a picture?
No.
Because
of that, I got jurisdiction. I can't.
Let me piggyback off that wearing masks, right? Because when I came to the police department 23 years ago, we had a law in the books that it was illegal to wear a mask in the commission of a crime, right? To facilitate a crime. But wearing the mask in and of itself was not a crime, right? I implore you guys, when you start looking at social issues like this, contact your council members. They're the ones creating these laws or repealing laws, folks. Now, I'm not gonna turn this into a soapbox, but we got a lot of stuff right now on the table that's, we're looking at penalties of certain crimes like armed robberies and carjackings. The council's looking to repeal some of that stuff to make it less penalizing to folks that are committing some of these violent crimes, right? The mayor's office.
You're baiting me right now.
I'm being real about this, right? Because we can sit here and talk about why are they allowed to run around with masks? Because there's no law that says they can't, right? Why do I have the same citizens every day emailing me and crying and screaming, rightfully so, about people hanging in hang-arounds in front of their buildings causing noise? Well, because there's no law against loitering in the District of Columbia, right? There are things that are not in place that your legislators, right, who make law, could do if their representatives that they represent come to them with enough gusto to make that happen.
Can I say on the other side, so the enforcement side, what I'm hearing sort of is like, as affinity groups, if you will, like we have different stakeholder groups in the district, there are lots of ideas that are sort of holistic, practical ideas. How do we expand our camera rebate program to businesses to ensure people are utilizing that program? There's security. How do we partner together to incentivize businesses working together to have security? Then there's policy, right? Like how can we work together on the policy side of house to advocate for the promulgation of laws, but also regulations? Are there ways that we can address? Because some of these issues arose because of the pandemic, right? It was not normal before. If you wore a mask before, it'd be abnormal, and you would automatically stand out. But certainly, like what has happened in sort of our upside down turning of our society is like we haven't quite figured out how to address some of these things that are coming up that became normalized when they were always weird before. And so these are ideas that I think, like I said, this is a conversation starter as we really maybe on a more regular basis, we Votler and others meet and we work together on some of them. We don't make promises. We're government. We're not going to move be able to move mountains. But I think together we can really make some progress that will affect.
I think there's a couple of things here, like Lindsay said, that I want to make sure we come back on the table. How do we make that communication work amongst security, amongst the business with MPD? With that, we're at 3. Let's take a couple more questions. I think.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with what I was saying before. So I'm from California. I know there's layers of government, there's laws and all this stuff that needs to take place before something actually happens in the street. But I'm from a state, I'm from a city where 2 or more people wearing the same color, that's a stop and frisk. You take pictures, you pull off the mask. I don't see why it can't happen here. 2 or more people with ski masks.
I do. We have a DC council. That's why it can happen.
So that's
Yep.
You put me on a soapbox. I'm just telling you.
I was trying to go like this, so neither one of them. But in that though, right now, what the commander was saying, our whole criminal code is being rewritten.
Right now.
Do you all know that? Are you aware of that? And it is really going to the
There will be no charge for armed carjacking. I'm telling you that right now. When we got armed carjacking going off the hook right now in the city, there will be no charge.
So I do right. So
that's why I say our council is a reason.
But that's why I think we need to come around the table again though after this to make sure that we're clear. Yes, sir. And then ma'am in the back, and then I'm coming back over there.
Thank you so much. My name is Thomas, and I'm one of the business owners on 9th Street. And and I have three concerns, like other association on Main Street that we have. One is we were proactive on, securing the area, so we set up the RDO program, which we requested, like four, 6 officers, but sometimes we get none.
So that.
Okay.
And then we're gonna come back to 2 and 3, because I want to talk about that, because that's important to me, right? The RDO program, and I'm always like, we gotta make sure you guys are getting your RDOs filled, right? Because that's a force multiplier, right? But although we can hire now, how long did we go without being able to hire? That was DC Council, right? So we have to backfill the officers that have been traded out, meaning they left the agency when we couldn't hire. So when we talk about filling those RDOs, when there's so many other overtime assignments that we're making officers work, whether it's a protest, whether it's over in our homicide reduction, wherever it is, there's so much overtime. How much? We spent 1 million hours of overtime last year paying the officers 1 million hours of overtime. So when it comes to those
you don't want to know what that equals out in dollars.
you don't want to know, right? Because we are short, right? So we're working our officers a lot. And what happens when you start working people to exhaustion? They start making bad decisions.
Right.
Right? They're humans. They are people. They need to rest as well, and we're working our officers.
Yeah.
So in that, yes, it's hard. We try. It does.
It does, like.
And for me, it's part of our effort in this nightlife too, and in all my nightlife areas to make sure that we get those RDOs filled. But it's just a little challenging right now with the numbers that we have, and that's why I told them open it up to the whole department. Get any district, any bureau you work in, you can come. But we're keenly in tune to that. What's one?
Number 2 is about cameras. We set up, we have as association, most of our establishments have camera on outside camera, but in the city camera doesn't work because when something happens, that's where
we're going to everybody got a camera.
Exactly. So, how does the city camera work?
It's working. Like our camera. So we have a whole information technology division inside of a bureau within the agency where that's all they do. It's a unit that just does our cameras, right? So our cameras normally are working and we get video, but that does not preclude us or that does not stop us from coming into your businesses, coming to somebody's residence that we might see.
I mean, you are very welcome to come to us, but we're trying.
It's a collaboration right there. It's not just your camera that we're after, but you might have the best angle, depending on what's going on.
And I believe in FY23 we're expanding. We funded expansion for CCTV as well.
Right. So it's still the rebate. The mayor still has a rebate program for businesses and for residential areas. I think it's $250 for residential, $500 I think for businesses. Number 3.
Number 3 is we requested back in August when there's a conjunction and there's so many traffic around the 9th Street corridor, we requested to make it one way, like when there's a busy time, to make it one way so that it will be clear. But now it's closing the entire street, which deteriorates the customers who's taking like Uber because they can't get in Como. So that is affecting us.
You talking about over here on 9th Street?
9th
Street, where it has that little thing. Okay.
Friday, Saturday, it get closed. The entire street get closed, so the customers can't. Even the Ubers cannot get.
So I've been down on the weekend, every weekend for the last month. We let Ubers in every time they identify.
I trust your word.
Yeah, every time they identify, I mean, I tell you because I drive by them.
Are you talking about if we get to a point where we feel like we gotta close the street down?
Yeah, so it's one way anyways, and sometimes we'll restrict traffic if the pedestrian traffic is too busy.
Okay.
But we still allow the pickup drivers, the Uber drivers, dropping off people. I see them lined up on with hazard lights going all the way down the road.
We don't want to do that. Right. See how we said we might have to pivot. Like if that's something we're seeing dictates, then we might pivot and say, okay, we need to shut this street down for an hour, 30 minutes, 15, whatever that looks like. That's us pivoting in the moment. All right.
Because when we shut that street down, the street starts to get buck wild in the middle of the street.
Right.
We don't want that to happen.
We don't want to shut it down because then it becomes a party in the street. So we gotta very delicately balance what we're seeing. That's why we have a management official in charge.
What we will do is sometimes shut down traffic in one direction, right? Instead, and let traffic flow the other direction. And sometimes we'll stagger that on U Street even, you know, where you come, you know, eastbound, you only go eastbound for 2 blocks, and then you gotta go north, right? And that's to break up the groups that are hanging around that wanna just circle and cause trouble. It makes it not fun to wanna have to do that, right?
Which is part of the goal.
Which sometimes cuts down on the congestion.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Too much
ma'am,
vehicle traffic.
and then, so we don't have. Okay.
So, hi, I'm Mary,
Oh,
Mr.
I'm
Henry's. Hi, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
I've got a suggestion, and this is to the issue, because I've been there too, where something happens, my car gets broken into or whatever, and at this point, it's like, oh God, they're not gonna come out and fingerprint, so I'm not gonna bother, right? But I also appreciate your side of it, and that we really, as a community, need better statistics on the crime that's happening, right? So I'm suggesting that there be some sort of app that has a fast input on crimes that are not violent.
Yeah, we have.
Right? Is there an app? And is it something where it's also 4 o'clock in the morning, and God, I really don't want to do this, but can I start the process? And
Or
it
do it
sends
when
me
you
a
wake
ping
up.
tomorrow at noon where I'm awake and I can take a few minutes to put all my information in. You see what I'm saying? Like,
MPD.dc.org, online reporting.
so there's something
Yeah,
that's
there's some
fast like
crimes
that?
we'll do online reporting for that doesn't require a police response. Now, if you put something in there to say, is that Vermont or is one of those, right? Okay, if you put something in there insinuating that you need a police officer to respond out, then it's probably with a kickback. But go to our.
Yeah. But I mean, but that's let's figure out a way to get the word out about that. Or connect it with 311, or connect it, right? Because I didn't know that existed.
You can do telephone reporting and you can do online.
Yeah, telephone reporting, who wants to call, right? Like, that's my point, is let's figure out a way to make it easy.
Yep.
And maybe even a way to make it easy where I'm gonna start the process at 4 in the morning so that I get my little timestamp in or whatever, and then it pings me the next day to go back and fill in more information, so that you have stats.
And there is victim services.
Yeah, we do have a toolkit, maybe
out
like
and we
a
were gonna start to
toolkit
figure
that
out how
has like
to
a
connect it,
one-pager or
put a
something
report
through, so you know what's available, what's
I need to see
easy,
where that's
resources
at.
and
But I don't
otherwise.
take.
We'll put that as part of that.
So, the point we just talked about is 311 is an app, so you can do 311 reporting through an app.
And is there a way to report crimes
That's
through
what we're
311?
So before I took my
Alright.
assignment as the Assistant Chief of Patrol Services North, I was the Assistant Chief of our Technical and Analytical Services Bureau. And I know that OUC is trying to figure out a way to combine that with 311 so that we can do it that way. They were working on that before I left, but can I get, sir, yes?
Yes, thank you for all your
And I'm
service,
coming back,
okay?
ma'am, to you next.
Thank you. I have a question. I represent Law Society, which is across the street, okay? Very busy bar. We comply with Fire Marshal and Abra at all time. You know, whatever you guys want me to do, I'd always do. The issue being like this past weekend, one of the sergeant came up and he said, guys, the line is too long. You know, you guys blocking the sidewalk. And, you know, my manager go out there and, you know, hey guys, you know, one straight line, this and that. And, you know, one of the sergeant came up and say like, you gotta cut it off. You gotta tell them we close. You know, it's a touchy subject for us to go out there and, you know, tell people on the sidewalk, gotta go. You know, like, again, you know, like we're gonna do our best to control the line, and the line is straight. But once it passed Subway, you know, I don't think that like, you know, is like my title to say, hey, you can't be on a sidewalk.
Well, I think in that space, and I wasn't there, so I don't know what that conversation looks like. I think it could be more collaborative. If the sergeant was seeing something that he thought was a public safety issue that he was trying to address, we just have to address it together.
Okay.
Whether that's calling in the fire marshal, you know, to come and help, and we figure out what we need to do to make the street so that people can actually walk down the street. Because for the sergeant to do it, he saw something that he thought was unsafe. Now, we have more conversation on how we do that.
Yeah, but please pass it along, because you say like the public space is public space. You can't do too much about
Well,
it.
you can't block it. You cannot have a continuous block. It's called blocking
But to
passage.
play devil's advocate, those
Yeah.
people online could just claim that they're loitering there. And then there's not a law to do it.
I mean, they could.
So like, that's what I'm saying,
That's
like, that's where
what
it's kind of like, to play devil's advocate, you can't say it's public space and anyone can stand there, but then say, but if they're attached to your business possibly in the future they can't stand it.
No, I think what the chief is
He's
saying.
waiting, he's saying people are waiting in line on the sidewalk to get into
Right.
the business.
Yes.
It's a public space, they're not yet in the business, so they're technically not yet customers. So.
And he's saying he doesn't feel comfortable doing that.
What the chief is saying though is, you can be in public space, but you cannot block the entire sidewalk, right? So if you got a group of people blocking the entire sidewalk.
Yeah, but is it my job to do that?
I would venture to say that that's more on our sergeant.
Right.
To talk to the people
That's why
on
I'm
the
saying
public
that
space
there
than it is
should be-
on.
Yeah,
If-
yeah,
if
okay,
he-
I would agree with
right.
that. I
If
would
he's
agree.
seeing something that's causing him